Welcome back to Off Guard. It's your host, Austin Rivers, along with my co-host, Pausha Haghighi. We are back in the building. Beautiful week.
Could you imagine a world where LeBron went first, then Jordan, where the whole time you're comparing Jordan's career and everything he did to LeBron? So then think about this. The whole time to Jordan, you'd be like, well, he didn't play 22 years. Well, he wasn't good in his 19th or 20th year. You know, you'd be...
Well, he averaged 24, 25 a game for the Wizards. They stunk, granted, but he was... he put 50 on somebody, too.
No, for sure.
Seen him hitting off the glass with two hands, just scratch his back off on the way down.
I feel like LeBron's going to be all... I feel like since... In 2025, he's been a top 5 player in the NBA. I think. If you look at his numbers, it's insane.
Since what age?
Since 2025. This year.
This year, he's the top 5 player in the NBA?
Look at the numbers. It's insane.
Yeah, he's up there.
Yeah,
listen, we still had him lead our team last year in the Olympics, so let's not... I don't even give a fuck what the numbers is. The fact is, on the biggest stage, when we had to grab our best, we looked at him and Steph and KD and we're like, yeah, we need y'all three to be our best three again. Yeah. And, obviously Steph, that was his first thing, and that's exactly what they did. They went out there and all three of them pretty much carried that team.
Yeah.
Carried them. The only contribution we really got from anybody else in that damn team, we got a little bit from Joel when he played. AD was solid.
I like Devin Booker played a perfect role player.
Devin and Ant were fantastic. Outside of that, it's a little shaky. Devin was good, and so was Ant. But those three really, they carried him. But anyways, yeah, LeBron's been fantastic.
Okay, so if you go to first
the only thing I would say about your scenario is if LeBron did play first, I am convinced with how competitive Michael is, he would have played longer to chase something.
Oh, okay. I mean, he did retire that second time
because
on
they
top of
crowned
the NBA.
him GOAT 7 years in when he had like 2 titles, like greatest of all time. So he felt the need to go play baseball at one point.
That's a great point.
He quit to play baseball because they crowned him GOAT already too early. So he went and played baseball and wasted a year or two in his prime, which we got jibbed of that, which still to this day, I understand he had to do what he had to do. That was more so, I think, with his father and all these other things. But like, man, imagine, and then he retired early. He retired after winning off a game winner in the finals, second in MVP voting that year. They gave to Carl, gets the trophy, and he retires again too early. And then he comes back and then has one, and then he like, bro,
they were going to keep Scottie Pippen. They were going to keep Phil Jackson. He couldn't have kept playing.
He could have kept playing for somebody else.
Yeah. But back then, I guess that just wasn't
that's the point. Now LeBron's like, I'm taking my talent to South Beach. Like, it's just totally different. So
LeBron going to the Lakers. The Lakers weren't good, and the Cavs just went to the finals. Him going to the Lakers wasn't like this big thing. They ended up getting AD.
I'm not counting the Lakers.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying
the Lakers was...
That's a product that...
He went to a great team.
That's a product of today's NBA. Everyone does that. With the exception of Steph and a couple other guys, everyone else has been, you're a hired mercenary. I mean, that's just how it works. That's today's NBA. LeBron James is it's not even an argument. He's the greatest player in the NBA the past 10 or however many years he's been in the league, pretty much, right? There was a time period there where I would put Kobe over him, personally. But for the longest part of his career, he's been the best player in the league. It's just the way it is. Guys move around now. If Michael would have came second, he's not retiring after. By the way, with the way the NBA business is now, Krause wouldn't have wanted to break up that team. He would have been like, let's keep this train rolling forever. And then we'll just build around Jordan and them as they get old, like they do with Steph and Dirk and all these other guys who got to do it. They didn't do that. This guy was pushing Jordan and Pippen out like an idiot. And again, I know he's a legend, so I don't mean that disrespectfully, but that is the tarnish he has on his name. Is what you saw in the doc was the way it ended was bad. And the way they were pushed out after winning their 6th one was just weird. It's like, bro, they had the best team that year. They smacked everyone. And then they wanted to restart to hopefully get to that point maybe one day again, which they never have since. They haven't won since Michael's left. It's another thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if LeBron comes, or Michael comes second, he don't retire, bro. Yeah. And he's not pushed out of Chicago. But can you imagine Michael being like, I'm going to go play with Dan Marley in Phoenix? Like, people be like, I'm going to go play with Malone. He would have 9 titles. But the flip side is,
in Jordan, in LeBron's 4th year, he goes to the finals, gets swept. They're like, Jordan never lost in the finals. So, LeBron's entire career, they were like, well, he's not Jordan, he's Jordan. Comparing his entire career and started with, I think you can agree with me. And that's what LeBron said about the face of the NBA. I think I wanted to talk about today. He's like, why would you want to be the face of the NBA? All they do is try to, break you down. We don't. Do you think we appreciate a LeBron? Dude, he's in his 22nd season having the year he's having.
I don't.
Just so much hate going towards him and a lot of stars. Jason Tatum, we had a whole thing on our last pod about it.
And I had to set that straight on my Twitter for whatever that did. We don't do that on our show. We are critical of players when in need. We compare certain guys. I said Maxey, or I'm sorry, I said LaMelo Ball was better than Halliburton. I didn't say Halliburton sucks. I would never say that. He's an all-NBA guy. He won a gold medal, max contract. I have respect for that because I never did those things as a player. So I would never say one of those guys stinks or sucks or any of those things that are disrespectful. Could I say he's having a tough month? Can I say he's not playing his best basketball this season, or he looks like he's regressing a little bit? Hopefully he could have a hot. I even said it the other day. I was like, Halliburton's picked up his game. Second half of the season, Pacers are just cruising by under the radar, but they're playing well. We don't do that. I'm not about to come on here and tarnish another player's name or diminish their greatness just for even making the NBA alone, let alone the things that they're doing in the league. We have too many pods that do that. And more importantly, I'm just going to be honest with you. TV has become entertainment only. We grew up on Stuart Scott and the likes of that, right? Scott Van Pelt, I know he's still doing it, but we grew up on that level of basketball coverage, right?
Yeah.
And the outburst of someone talking about a player were outliers. Like the Kawambi Brown rant is notorious with Stephen A. Smith because that stuff didn't happen a lot. So when he was like, he's a bum, he's a bona fide scorer.
But that's a great point because now every time you turn on the TV, someone is going off about a player.
I could see that every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I turn on the TV and someone on one of that network is talking crazy about somebody. That's not how it was. We grew up in a highlight culture. They showed the highlights. That's what ESPN was really for. You'd go on the couch, you'd turn it on. What happened was social media came along, and now we can get those same highlights from our phone. We can get all these things. We can get the clip 100 times. I don't have to record it on my TV or hope to rewind it or miss it. I got it on my phone where I can play it as much times as I want. Yeah. So what did ESPN, Fox, all these networks do? And rightfully so, I'm not coming at them. Just the truth. You have to find ways to be viable. You have to find ways to make money. You have to find ways to be lucrative. We got to have these shows.
So let's go opinion based, but then it's like, well, regular opinions aren't good. LeBron being good or this guy being good, right? So it has to be like spicy opinions
because that doesn't do enough. Yeah. They can't go up on the TV every day and say LeBron's great. Yeah. No one cares. They already know that. They want to hear somebody. LeBron is he's something crazy, right? They're going to say something ridiculous, and everyone has done it. I got respect for all of them. It's just a different type of TV in a different era. And you can't argue, to LeBron's point, like it's become kind of toxic, and he's been the bulk of a lot of it. He grew up, LeBron is overrated. Russell Westbrook. I can keep going. It's negative, and that's the only way these shows could be lucrative or even hang around. It's because we have social media now, so highlight culture is done for them. Now it's, like you said, it's an opinion of guys just on TV yapping away, most of which have never bounced a basketball in their life, but they have the credibility in their field of journalism just so enough to where they got their own show and voice, and they bring people on, and that's what it does. So it's hard, man. I mean, yeah, why would you want to be the face of the league? I don't know. It's difficult. A lot of guys are, criticized, to a level to where the guys are like, why would I want to be that? You can see it's almost like Ant's made an effort this year to not be that. And it's contradicting because he's got a Sprite deal and he's got the Adidas sneakers. Like, bro, you're already set up to be it. You got the personality for it. But then now he don't even dress up for the games. Remember we talked about this. He wears sweats and he has a hoodie on. He's very Kevin Durant-like because I don't think he wants to be it. And then he publicly came out and said, I don't want it. So all y'all saying I'm the face of the league, I don't want to be it. Because a lot of guys are like, I don't want y'all to build me up so tall so just so y'all can knock me down so I could have a great fall. I'm good off that. Yeah. A lot of people don't want that seat LeBron's worn. LeBron went to Miami. They paid him $1 billion for years. It wasn't until he won back with Cleveland where people loved him again. Do you know what I'm saying? Like Kevin Durant went to the Warriors and people wanted to kill him just because he wanted to go play for a different team. So it's just like, it's hard.
Yeah. I completely agree. Listen, it's only a matter of time until Wemby doesn't have a big playoff run in a couple of years where they're going to start criticizing him. That's just the way it naturally goes. Unless you're like Kobe Bryant, that can win some titles early on and kind of get that off your back. But then he got criticized for other reasons later on too.
I do believe we are harder on our own players than anybody else. I don't think foreign players get the same type of treatment. I really don't.
Yeah. First
one I've ever seen is Luka. This is the first time I've ever seen like a guy be criticized to this level. Like, a lot of it's just because culturally foreign players sometimes don't put themselves out there as much or not as accessible. So because of that, like, I don't know. I feel like it's less inclined to be, for instance, like Nikola hasn't won every year. Nikola's won one ring, right? There's not a lot to hate on him. You know what I mean? Just because, like, first off, he's good.
This is a great point. Ryan Russillo made this point. The more access you get to someone, the more of a relationship you feel like you build with them, and the more you get like let down or something.
The more comfortable you feel talking about him. And LeBron is always, he's the face, like he's saying, and Michael and all these guys. It's this big colossal tower that we can chip at and like as we feel because that's what it is. Someone like Nikola or even Dirk, like no one talks about Dirk won one ring.
So when Dirk lost the 1-8. That was a big one.
That was a big one, and even then they're like the Warriors. We believe it was less about how Dirk failing. Like I don't even hear about. It's not even a blip to us. I mean, maybe to him it is, but like they don't really get that because they're not from here. A, B. A lot of times when the season's over, they don't fucking stay here anyway. They don't give a shit. Half of them can barely speak. In terms of like how director. Obviously, Dirk's fluid, obviously, but a lot of guys aren't like fluid in English and don't really even care what people got to say. It's just that it's a target that our media doesn't really go after a lot. It's usually our own kind, to be completely honest. Our own stars, American stars, usually get the bulk of the criticism. Victor is like one of those guys. Like, I don't know. We'll see how much access he gives. The only thing I'll say with him is the bar is so high for him that, I would imagine he's going to have to be spectacular throughout his career or somebody's going to come along probably trying to bring him down and talk about it. But it's different, man. You know what I mean? Like you hear a lot more talk about a Ja Morant or an Ant than you would on a Victor or another foreign player, a Sangoon. Like, you don't hear nobody talking shit about Sangoon. If Sangoon was American, they'd be all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, so another thing is people are talking about our NBA. Is the NBA, is this sport particularly harder on its stars than other sports? And if that's true,
of course,
it's probably a lot to do with the fact that we had this guy, Michael Jordan, that we talked about earlier on this pod, that created such a strong legacy. It's almost like a cloud or a shadow over everyone that comes after him that you compare it to this. And if it's not this, it's not that, you critique them. And like you said, we have more access. We know things about Zion that we never would have known in the 90s because of social media and stuff that people can criticize now that we just didn't even know.
And also think
there's just more information out there.
I think with great, power comes great responsibility. I think you can't have it both ways all the time. Listen, the NBA players get more attention than every other athlete, okay? The starting second lineman or cornerback, you don't know. And if he walked by you, you wouldn't even know he played in the NFL. Unless you're an avid football fan, 80% of the NFL guys are like unrecognizable. Unless you're a quarterback or you're an absolute stud in your position, like an Odell Beckham as a wide receiver, Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver, Myles Garrett. Like these are the outliers of their position. All these other guys, you just know like, oh, he probably plays football. That's what you do when you walk by an NFL player. Whereas like Josh Hart's like the 6th best player, 5th best player for the Knicks, but he was on a Wheaties box a year or two ago. He had his own like gummy. That's the strength of being in a big market, a role player, because we have no helmet. Our face is there. Like you said, too much access goes in a lot of different ways. I think it's easier, and I think NBA players, I think they're criticized a lot more, but that's because they're more out there to be criticized. I think, if we're going to be comparable, the only other position where you see guys get criticized more than anybody is a quarterback. Why is that? Because everyone knows what the quarterback looks like. Everyone knows who it is. You feel like you know him. The point you just made. It feels like there's a relationship there. Every quarterback gets brutal scrutiny. All right? That's how it is in the NBA. Every star they get killed if you don't play well. Joel Embiid won the MVP a year and a half ago. It's like it never happened the way people talk about him now. They got to rebuild. You got to restart. You got to get rid of him. He's bad. And even us, we've been like, I think the Sixers need to just move on and just go in a different direction. This guy won an MVP like a year and a half ago, man. It's just like, bye.
But now that he's shut down for the rest of the year.
I know, and now it's a cloud. And now we talk about it. So it's just like the access is there. Yeah, there's a lot there.
Seems to be like the right move, though. If you know he needs surgery and you know this year's kind of a wash, then what are we doing? Let's get it started
Paul
early.
George, and again, Paul George had a good career. All right, I'm not saying he sucks, stinks. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not in the business of that. But Paul George right now and his play this year for what he's getting paid has been it's been remarkable, and I don't mean that in a good way. And
remarkable's not the way.
Yeah, I don't mean that in a good way. It's just been remarkable's not the right word. It's been, I guess why I say remarkable because it's just been unbelievable to see. Like his numbers are less than what Tobias Harris averaged, and people for years gave Tobias just a lot of BS in Philly. He got a lot of hate there. Even though he's like the nicest guy in the world, put up really solid numbers, but he signed that $180 million deal. And he averaged 18 points a game, and people were just like, that's not enough. You need to be a star. We're paying him to be a star. Then they get Paul George. Paul George averaging 17 points a game, and his numbers aren't even as efficient. And he got max. for 4 years. It's a tough thing to look at right now if you're a Philly fan. Yeah. Overall.
What about the Quentin Grimes 44-point explosion? That's the other side of the coin, is now other guys get some opportunity.
So this is where there's a silver lining for Philly, all right? You have young talent that you can hang your hat on right now. If you're asking what I would do, it's a rebuild for me. If you trade Joel Embiid after the surgery, he gets healthy, I'm sure this summer you could move him, okay? You could get a lot for Joel Embiid. Some picks, maybe some young talent. That already is enough to set you up for the future. Then you add on top of that you have Grimes, who's really like starting to pull into his own.
Another Dallas trade that just went wrong.
Nico gave him up too. And then you got McCain coming back healthy. And you have Tyrese Maxey. So off the rip, you have 3 really talented guards, and you'll get a lot for Joel Embiid. That's a big restart right there. That's a great restart. That's a fantastic restart. You got a point guard, a backup point guard, and you got a shooting guard. You're already good right there, not to mention the stuff you get for Joel. Where Paul George will come and play is, all right, listen, we're not trying to win right now, but we still need some, like Detroit and some of these other teams that have vets. We need you to be that. I guarantee you play even better. Because it's not even like, right now it's championship. Paul, you need to be, it's not working. He's hurt. This guy's hurt. Paul's out there by himself or with Maxey half the time. It's nasty. It's not working. He's not playing. It's not going well. You redo all that. And now you got this young team who's just, hey, we're going to build this out all these next 4 or 5 years. Hey, Paul, you're going to be here. We need you to be a pro. Your numbers aren't as important to us, but we need you to go out there and produce and help us, win some games. The light and pressure off his shoulders, you'd probably get the best Paul you're going to get closing out his career. And you move on from there. That's what I would personally do if I'm running the show in Philly. That's the direction I would take. And I don't say that lightly because, again, Joel Embiid didn't win an MVP a year and a half ago. He's done a lot for Philly. He is the guy who started the process. He's put in his time there, and it's a vulnerable thing. You just don't move Joel Embiid without the right steps. And you don't move Joel Embiid usually without having someone like him involved. There's a lot of respect there with what he's done in Philly. I know he hasn't won a title, but not everything's title-based. He's done a lot there, and he's been there his whole career. Usually those type of guys, you kind of work with finding them a home. Because, it's not something you just trade them on a whim. You don't see what happened with Luka. That doesn't happen a lot. You know what I mean? Like a guy like that just doesn't move without knowing. Right. So we'll see how that ends. But yeah, that's where I would go.